Awesome. Thank you, Paul. And as the panel's coming up to the stage, I'm going to introduce each of them. If you want to give a wave, like you're, a princess or a prince. So we have Christy Farley, Senior Vice President of External Affairs and Engagement with Northern Arizona University. We have Chancellor Lambert from Pima Community College. My friend Dr. Valenzuela, Superintendent of Sahuarita Unified School District. Shelley Jones-Mellon, President and CEO of R.L. Jones Insurance Services. And last but not least, the one, the only, the great Aaron Hart, who is Governor Hobbs' Higher Education Policy Advisor. Welcome back. Isn't it more fun coming here when you're not here? Yeah. So, we just heard from Rich about the Arizona Progress Meter and the fact that we are at 48% of Arizona residents 25 to 64 years of age who have completed a 2-year, a 4-year, or a certificate. So a 2% increase, that is fantastic. And I'm really going to start focusing this one to Chancellor Lambert and to Christy. Chancellor Lambert, from your perspective, what's that increase attributable to? And what's the specific role that community colleges are playing and currently and will continue to play in increasing post-secondary attainment in Arizona?
Well, thank you, Janice, for the question, and I want to thank Helios for inviting me to be here this morning with all of you. So just a few points that I want to emphasize. I think the first is focus. And what I mean by that is understanding the problem that needed to be solved by looking at the data and the trends. And so that's one big area of that. When I isolate to that, and I'll just use as an example, demographics. When you start to look at the demographics, not just from a race, gender, ethnicity perspective, but looking at those age cohorts for the trap value components. So what's the trap value in each of the age cohorts? So we isolated at Pima, for example, on the some college, no credential population. And that's a huge population, by the way. It's almost as equal to all the folks in the K-12 system in Pima County. So when we start to isolate to that grouping, now better understanding what's important to them, and all of a sudden you start to hear, I want convenience. It's got to be shorter term. It's got to work for my life. And it's got to add value to opportunity. So when we do that, then we start to say, who are the key partners in the community that's going to allow us to meet that opportunity or that value trap or that value gap. And so I'll just illustrate just a few as an example. So we partner with Bank of America. They're running this national jobs initiative. They selected, I think it was 21 colleges and universities. Pima is one of them. So we received a healthy support, 7-figure support, to really start to understand the data of the opportunities in our community. So that partnership coupled with the Ed Design Lab partnership we have to create micro pathways. So we understand where the opportunity is in terms of job pieces, and then looking at how can we design a pathway for the some college population to get them to a certificate and put them on a pathway ultimately to whatever their desires may be. So our micro pathways work, for example, combines one technical skill of value in the marketplace in our community, along with one 21st century skill. And so that's done in conjunction with the employer. So we don't decide it. The employer is telling us what is needed. Because of that tight relationship, we're able to get incredible outcomes. So when we launched this pilot, we attracted a lot of individuals who were not only some college, no degree, but here's the interesting thing, people who already have bachelor's degrees, people who already have associate's degrees. So we're unlocking other trap value that's in our community that we didn't actually set out to do initially. And then, so in results of this, so we just opened, so work-based learning is another component of this. So Raytheon, we just announced a big apprenticeship program with Raytheon. We've been working with IBM around similar things, and then we work with a lot of our small businesses as well. So I think those are things that are attributable to these great opportunities that are coming. And then, and the specific role that community colleges play, we are the middle skills player for our economy. We're going to be the ones who help fill the plumbers, the electricians, all of that, and the technicians for our community, the nurses, you get the idea, right? So, but us understanding that's our role, and then going in there and meeting that piece, and then partnering with the universities. We partner with NAU, ASU, and U of A to say, how do we then transition others who want to go on and get that 4-year degree? And then we work with our K-12 partners. They're a critical part of that pipeline. And I see Manny's here today, and we work closely with him and so forth. So I think that's how I would go about answering the question.
Yeah. You also do a fantastic job on dual enrollment, so thank you. Thank you, Chancellor Lambert. So Christy, NAU has embarked on a pilot program to align the current math admission standards for university to match high school graduation requirements. So I'd love for you to talk about that, what the thinking around that, and how it shaped your Access to Excellence initiative, which expands access to higher ed for low-income students. What's that message you're trying to send to low-income students and their families about colleges for everyone?
Thanks, Janice. And really building off of what Chancellor Lambert highlighted and the entire report this morning, there's very consistent themes: alignment, opportunity, and access. And that's the message to all students, that post-secondary education is realistic and achievable for all of our high school students and our populations. And so that was the message around what we're doing with Elevating Excellence, which is the NAU roadmap, and the efforts to align NAU's admissions requirements with the high school graduation requirements. It is, if you work hard in an Arizona high school and you graduate with all of the requirements at an Arizona high school, which includes 4 years of math, 4 years of English, all of those requirements, and you earn a 3.0, you will be automatically admitted at Northern Arizona University. There's nothing else that you need to do. This isn't about an alignment of systems. It is not confusing. That allows for an alignment of our messaging to our Arizona students and families. So that was our thinking in starting with the admissions requirements so that we could then move on to the next conversation about aligning of our financial aid system to focus on students that have the largest need. And we moved to focusing on families under $65,000 median income. And our message is that if you earn under $65,000 in Arizona and you're an Arizona resident, tuition at Northern Arizona University is free. This required a complete restructuring of our financial aid system. It has been assisted by an investment from the state in the Arizona Promise system. We thank the governor for committing to an investment in that in this year's budget conversations for that. But that, again, is about opportunity and access. So what are those barriers that we saw in the message board from all of you? What do we think that one of those first things are that is the barrier for students? Financial cost, access. Okay, let's take that off the table for families that are $65,000 and under. Again, you have to meet the admissions criteria. So this is not about you haven't worked hard, you haven't persevered. You've already met the admissions criteria to an Arizona university. Income and financial aid is there to help you get in and persevere. And we know that this is about providing opportunity for you to move through. So then it moves to an alignment of our messaging, which is really what we're all here today. And I appreciate Rich's comments about call to action for the future, which is an alignment of our messaging. And then I want to highlight NAU's efforts with our community college partners and what Chancellor Lambert focused on for the alignment with our workforce through an A++ Arizona Attainment Alliance initiative related to how we then work with the Arizona Commerce Authority and others to focus on what are those high demand jobs so that we can help students understand what the workforce needs are today and tomorrow and in the future so that as they're planning their pathways, we're working together collaboratively. And that's, again, an alignment on the system side of workforce planning, our business partners, our community college partners, about how are those pathways easy and seamless for students, because as the chancellor pointed out, it's not a one-stop, I'm choosing my institution and I know what my degree is as soon as I come in. There's many points of entry for people all along the system. There's re-careering, and between all of us, we're here to make sure that that's seamless for them.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. Representing in your NAU blue as well. So Dr. Valenzuela, linking K-12 and post-secondary education systems, such as expanded access to dual enrollment, but also the promotion of student-centered pathways is a key recommendation of the Billions to Gain report. So can you share a little bit how Sahuarita works with cross-sector partnerships, including Pima community colleges and others in your community, to help these young folks transition to college?
Well, unlike these really smart people, I'm just going to talk about something that is so simple that it's almost embarrassing that I'm talking to you about it, except I've seen the power that it wields. And that is, it began with a question that I asked years ago with my friend, the good mayor here, Mayor Murphy. What if we could all, across our sectors, public, private, big, little, could come together, meet regularly, and listen to each other? And what if from those conversations we could not just understand, but look at intentionally what we have in common? And if we could find what we have in common, could we leverage our collective resources, abilities, initiatives, time, energy to forge a unified mission? Sounds simple, but that's kind of what we started doing, and we've been doing it now for years, every month, once a month, for an hour. And it really yields amazing fruit, this kind of inductive process. We call it Sahuarita Wins. One thing the other thing you build when you do this is you learn to trust people. You develop relationships. For example, and we had big companies, including, I see Tracy here from Freeport-McMoran, one of the biggest employers in our region. And we had Raytheon, and what I heard is, we can't get as many people to move here because we don't offer enough AP classes. I think we had like 5. And so we said, well, what can we do about that together? So we went out on a mission to raise funds, and we raised about $1 million because we had that collective will. And we launched this thing called the National Math and Science Initiative, and it's still alive today, Tracy. And so we've increased from like 5 AP classes to like 18. Another thing we've discovered recently is that, first of all, what I saw today really validates something very important. And that is that we have to raise the bar for every kid. The path doesn't need to look the same, but we got to raise the bar for every kid. And, from cost, the big bold letters that kept coming up on the screen, cost. For what we took away from our dialogue is that for a lot of our students who might not be FAFSA eligible, full FAFSA eligible, or on the other side, from kids that might have other merit or other scholarships available, that there's a big chunk of young people that need post-secondary education, and they might not get as much need-based, but they also don't have a bunch of money lying around, and we know what higher education costs. And we said, what's the natural choice? Pima Community College. And that comes up in these organic conversations. Why? Because affordability, for one, but they will help you whether you want to get an industrial certificate, a professional certificate, a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, you want to go to Harvard. I mean, they'll take care of you. And so what we did is we said, how can we facilitate that? And again, by talking and listening and getting out of our respective silos, we developed something we now call it the Pima First Sahuarita Wins Scholarship. And the idea is every student who qualifies, who meets minimum thresholds, gets 2 years of tuition at Pima Community College, funded partly by us scrapping together what we could. We had a local fraternal lodge that condensed their money and donated $75,000. They have a foundation that matches that, like 50%. So we're giving the money to them, and then combined with their merit scholarships, we now have a plan for about 2 or 3 years to do something, to get every kid that can go to Pima 2 years worth of tuition paid for, and then we know it's going to be successful, and then that success will breed success. In that same spirit, we also heard that we didn't have enough dual enrollment. Why didn't we have, those of you that have dealt with this, why didn't we have dual enrollment? And I applaud the leadership of this man and his team. And I will also look at myself in the mirror when I say, we historically live in silos. We have our silos and they have their silos. And every time we tried to increase dual enrollment, it would be like, well, so there's so-and-so reason or reasons why we can't. Certification credentials, the committees that you've got to float this through. But when you get the right people in the room and you build trust and will, you break those down. And we went from like three dual enrollment classes like 10 years ago. We have like 30, and a lot of them are CTE. So I guess to me, the as simple as it sounds, the most important thing is intentionality and resolve. To me, to convene and to do something, to do this meaningful work that we're doing together.
Yeah. Thanks, Manny. And Manny, you just reiterated how much leadership plays a role, right, in all of this. So we've heard from community colleges, we've heard from the universities, we've heard from the K-12 system, but the business community is also a key driver of ensuring that we are meeting our attainment goals. And so the report asserts that billions of economic gains come from, right, attaining a post-secondary degree. And so that should more than justify the investments from the state in order to help students graduate. And so those broad sector commitments, like we said, from the business community as well, has really been led by Shelley, and Yuma specifically has been a leader. And your leadership with the Yuma Advocacy Council to talk about how access to educational support, services, and opportunities make all of that happen. Can you tell us more about that and about the council and how that has been important to the workforce, and really, telling the story to business, how much business and education is intertwined and dependent upon each other?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Janice, and thank you, Helios, and everyone for allowing me to share a little bit today. My key word, I think we've had focus and alignment, and mine is engagement. And so that is something that I think is vital to the success in education and into our businesses. We know we have to do that every day as business leaders. A little bit of history for myself. I was fortunate to grow up in a home with the model. My parents and my family for many generations have modeled the importance of education and the direct linkage with business, and how important it is for business to support education. My dad chaired many bond campaigns in our community, and so I thought that was just the obvious. That was obvious to everyone that linkage is extremely important to our community and our students. But I had the opportunity to chair a bond campaign, co-chair with my dad, a high school bond campaign, and I found out not everybody believes that. I'm like, what? Okay, this is a challenge. I would go door to door. I got chased down the street and many times trying to explain the importance of investing in education and why this bond was so important to our community. I had retirement folks that I would say, they said, I already invested in education. I don't need to invest in education anymore. I said, well, when you go have that surgery, do you want to have an educated person, performing that surgery, helping you? And so we have to engage those that may not understand what we all understand. And so I've learned so much along the way, and through the partnership of Helios and Education Forward Arizona, Expect More Arizona at the time, we were able to start our Yuma Education Advocacy Council. Our council consists of about 18 to 20 business leaders with a few educational leaders on our committee. We are there to champion education. For some reason, I don't know why, when education champions education, some reason it seems self-serving. I don't get it. You are boots, on the ground in the trenches. But it takes our business leaders to come alongside to champion and say, these investments are important. It's not only the right thing to do for our students in the future of our of rural and Arizona, but it makes business sense. I mean, when you break it down to business owners and business leaders, it really does make business sense. This Billions to Gain report really does validate. I agree that we have this in our hands to be able to go share with others. Our Yuma Education Advocacy Council has also been able to develop those relationships, and back to engage. We engage our legislators. We engage all of our legislators in voicing our concerns and our support for them and the importance of investing in education. I want to give a little bit of dynamics of Yuma County. We are the size of Rhode Island. And so we have 7 high schools that are spread across our district and our county. 85% of the students that we educate in Yuma County, 85% it's 85% of the migrant students of Arizona are educated in Yuma County. 65% of those students will have the opportunity to be the first generation to go to college. And I believe that's even higher than that, but that's what I could get our school superintendent to acknowledge or agree to, but we believe it's more than that. So these are great. We see these as challenges, but they're not. They're opportunities. And I have to say that I love to share this fact. Our San Luis High School, which is right along, they're right there. You can see the border from the high school. It is the students, the engineering students at ASU. ASU is recognizing our students as the top performing students in the engineering college at ASU. These are first generation students that have this opportunity, and this pathway has been created. So back to engagement. The other thing that we have come to realize, as now we have 18 to 20 people understanding the importance as business leaders to champion this in our community, in our state. But we've also realized that we need to do a better job in engaging our whole community. We just held our first Workforce Leadership Alliance conference, and our keynote speaker were Paul Luna and Rich Nichols. We took our community leaders to every campus. They got to choose a campus, and they got to see all of the CTE programs and everything that we have going with our CTED. Our CTED is on every campus, and they were blown away and of the caliber of the students, the opportunities that the students have. So we're graduating these students. They are college, career, and community prepared. But our community the voice they've been sharing lately is, how do we retain them? Well, we do a great job of graduating them, but we need to do a better job at recruiting and retaining them in our community. And that's something that I think the light bulb is starting to go on, that they are here and we need to be able to do that. Our graduation rate in our Yuma, in our district is 85%. That is our graduation rate. If you're involved, we have 85% of our students enrolled in CTE programs, so 8,700 of about 11,000. Our graduation rate goes, and this is back to engagement, goes from 89%. The CTE students is 99%. That is the graduation rate. So that engagement is crucial. And one more thing I want to share, and I don't want to go over, but I had a whole list of notes because I can go on for a long time. But I really want to go back to, we've had some many town halls also in regards to education. And I asked our superintendents before we were headed into, all of our superintendents, before we headed into a town hall, I said, what is your one thing you want to communicate to our legislators, to the state, to our business community leaders? What is the one area of investments that can make a difference for all of our students? Our high school, Gina Thompson, our high school superintendent, she says, the investment in preschool. If we can invest in preschool, this will directly impact the outcomes by the time they get to high school and have a better chance of going on to post-secondary attainment. We sometimes can be reactionary. We can be reactionary where, okay, we need to meet the third grade reading, we need to meet the 8th grade math, but we need to be proactive in especially with the dynamics in our state. We need to start in early learning, that engagement in preschool with these families that maybe don't understand the importance of reading to your child. And so if we could make that investment, I think it'll come back tenfold on the other side. So thank you for this report. I know Yuma County, we are going to use this in so many ways to engage the rest of our community and our state. I know we'll be able to benefit from this. So thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley. Well, and Shelley, I just saw a huge, yes, talk about preschool from Melinda, who leads First Things First out in the audience there. So, we've heard about from community colleges and universities are doing to help attainment and the strong partnership work in our K-12 community, the engagement and advocacy of business leadership to achieve this goal. But there's really no bigger policy or no bigger lever to pick than statewide systemic policy. And we're so lucky to have Erin Hart here from Governor Hobbs' office as she leads the higher education work. It's the top of the list. So, Erin, what does the governor's office see as the 2 to 3 most critical investments and or policy strategies that can make a statewide impact?
Well, thanks, Janice. It's so lovely to be here with all of you today. I first want to acknowledge my colleague, Celiana Ching, who handles and leads our K-12 issues. And I also really want to thank Helios and Education Forward for having the foresight and the thoughtfulness to put this data together, because not only is it affirming to us about the actual value when it comes to dollars and economic impact when students earn degrees, but it also reminds me of, I think, why probably most of us are in the room today, which is education has the power to change people's lives. And this gives us a really tangible way to see that in dollars and cents, right? But so much more of this work is about the impact that this has on families and on students. And it's not just the current students, it's their generations to come, right? So we really believe in that and acknowledge that as part of this really important work. I also want to acknowledge the people in the room who many years ago put together and created the Achieve 60 Arizona goal. I think that was really important and transformational for our conversations as we thought about the broader community and how we could all rally together around what it would take to increase attainment in Arizona. And we've made some progress, which is wonderful. I was so glad to hear what Rich shared this morning. But we know we've got a lot more work to go. And so from the governor's office perspective, I want to affirm our support and commitment to that goal and talk with you about some of the levers we see that, as we get started in our administration, how we can make some changes that will help rapidly accelerate progress to the goal. So the first one of those levers is that as we are thinking about access to higher education, how are we thinking about equity and opportunity for all of our students? As we think about it, the questions that come to mind for me are we supporting and giving pathways to low-income students and students of color, and to make sure that our institutions are reflective of the broader community that we serve and our residents in Arizona. And so you've heard some talk about the Promise program today. We are so grateful that for the leadership of those who created the Promise program about 1.5 years ago. And it started out with some modest investments of $7.5 and now $20 million. And it's put us on a good road forward to help low-income students as they plan their path to college. But we see there's opportunity to do more and to grow this to be a wider scale impact to serve more students across the state. So the governor's proposed $40 million to expand the program to serve another 10,000 students across the state. We know there's more work to be done beyond that. She's also proposed another $40 million that would support undocumented students as well. And we know that this could give opportunity to so many students and give them a path to higher education that maybe they didn't see for themselves before. The second big lever I would mention is thinking about how we can strengthen those pathways to higher education, with dual enrollment being at the top of our list. We're so excited, and we know that dual enrollment makes a big impact on students' lives. Through the research done by the Decision Center for Educational Excellence in partnership with Helios, we've seen the power of that. If you haven't seen that data, I encourage you to take a look at it. We know from that data that students who take dual enrollment are 2 times more likely to go on and attend college. And for students who are low income, students who have disabilities, and students who are of students of color, they have even a greater impact and opportunity to attend college. So, and we know that, but that there's some impediments along the way with dual enrollment that they've experienced. And time as we went around the table and we were hearing their stories, they shared that oftentimes their access to dual enrollment was dependent on whether there was a teacher who was able to teach it. And also to support schools, because we know that there are other expenses that schools have when it comes to dual enrollment. So, and we're grateful to the partners. I know they're in the room, Helios. We have an opportunity to turn Arizona into a recognized talent hub for the nation. I've been on board with the governor's office just short of a couple of months. And in that time, we've been able to have the governor sit and spend time with university presidents, with the community college presidents, with members of the Board of Regents and their staff. And I will tell you that the work that is happening here is an untapped resource, and it has so much potential for the state to really become a powerhouse of talent, not only for the state, but that could be the envy of the nation. And as we just over in the past couple of weeks, it's been so incredible that we've been able to celebrate the work that NAU's been doing with the 10-year anniversary of their Phoenix Biomedical Corps, with their work in building up the health professions. We went down to U of A and we got to tour their wind tunnel, where they're doing like this mind-blowing research to test materials and how they would react for spacecraft, and in partnership with companies like Raytheon. And then, ASU yesterday, we were able to celebrate your recent grant award, that's your largest in school history, from the National Science Foundation, of nearly $91 million. So these are big things that Arizona has that just represent just the tip of the iceberg of some of this potential. And I feel like every time I'm in a conversation, I find out something new that it just boggles my mind about what's happening. And so, this is why the governor is investing in the New Economy Initiative that would enable the universities to continue this great work, and also making investments in our urban and our rural community colleges, because we know that there are good things happening. We want to help more of that to really scale up. Two other quick examples. Did you know that ASU has 30,000 students alone who are in their engineering program? That is the size nearly of other universities. But just think about the talent and the powerhouse and the capabilities that are coming out of that school. And also, Maricopa Community Colleges has an AI program that is really the envy of the country. People are clamoring to come here and to find out how are they doing it, so they can do something like that in their own home state. So we have this untapped potential that, if we could rally together and really put some emphasis around it, could really maximize both that ability for the state, but also lean into the unique and powerful roles that each of the institutions plays and their unique strengths. So, and then a fourth bonus one I would mention real quick is we need a lot of community support when it comes to higher education. I think Rich mentioned this a little bit earlier today, but the more people from the community who can talk about why this matters, the better. This shouldn't be a fight of whether college is worth it or whether it matters. We know that it does. We have the data now to really affirm that. And now, we have all these resources. So we could use the community's support from every walk of life, from the business and education and community leaders who can talk about why this matters and talk about all the pathways that exist, right? There's so many opportunities for our students and for business and for workforce here that we could all lean into. So we'd all appreciate your support in helping us build that greater support for public, for our education system and post-secondary education. Thanks, Janice.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you, Erin, your colleague Celiana. We know how hard of a job it is to be up at the governor's office, and you have a room of allies. So when we can be helpful, please let us know. I'm going to do an audible. We don't really have time for questions and answers. I'm trying to keep everything on time. So we're going to do a lightning round. This is going to be fun. All right. So we're going to do, two other items that were in the report. We're talking about non-academic barriers to college going and completion, and then also making college more affordable for all students. So lightning round, what is one non-academic support strategy that we should be most leveraging to advance educational attainment? And so, Chancellor, it's been a bit, so I'm going to put you on the spot first for the lightning round.
So food insecurity is a real big thing for us, and we've partnered with our community food banks to set up food banks at each one of our campuses.
Shelley, this is fun. We're just going to random popcorn.
Food security and our partnerships with our food bank. And we've also been able to get our students involved and our agricultural community involved as well, and being a big agricultural community. I think a non-education is continuing to pound the pavement with our community leaders to understand that they need to create mentorship programs, apprenticeships, internships for our students, that they need to engage the students as well. So we really need our business leaders to come around and to create these opportunities for that retention, and also for us to be able to hear. We know in education we need to hear what are their needs. So I love how you've developed that trust level, and you have that communication process built in, and I think that's something, if we did that across the state, tear down the silos and have that trust and communication, I think we'll be able to move that needle tremendously.
Manny.
I would say knowledge is power. And for those of us that have navigated that in our own academic and professional pathways, my parents are immigrants from Mexico. I didn't speak English when I started kindergarten. If it wouldn't have been for my counselor, Mrs. Holloway at Flowing Hills High School, I don't know, I might have had a different path. So the importance of helping students, guiding them, educating them, telling them about FAFSA and ACT and take it twice and SAT. I mean, that's not stuff that's intuitive. And if you don't know it, you don't know it, but it's key to navigate the landscape.
Erin.
Well, I echo the idea around providing support services to students. I'll give two quick examples. One, 2 weeks ago, we were down talking with student leadership from the U of A, and to echo what Chancellor Lambert mentioned, their top issue was food insecurity. They could have talked about anything on campus, and that was the single issue that we talked about with the governor for a good half an hour or so. So that issue is top of mind for our students. They shared at U of A that about a third of their students have or are experiencing food insecurity. So this is a big and important issue that deserves attention. And then I want to give a shout out to NAU. I don't want to steal your thunder, Christy, but the more we can do to help students who need childcare to be able to have that childcare, the better. And I won't, in case you want to mention it, I won't mention it, but NAU's doing some great things. I'll just give you a little taste. They're doing some great things that they just announced this week that I'll let you talk about.
So we're talking about food insecurities and how do we create a whole campus environment. We're working on mental health much more broadly. So for the lightning round, NAU has worked with DES on a very large grant, and we are providing child care subsidies for our students who are parents, and that now reaches across all disciplines, full-time and part-time students, all campuses.
What a great panel, right? Please help me give a big thank you to all of you.